Ahoy! Welcome back to Leia's Library. Find yourself a cozy corner, get yourself a cozy drink, and let's get started. Today is the July wrap-up. Ooh! So we'll be going over all of the books that I read in July and see what I thought about them. So yeah, let's get into it. First book that I read in July was Lakelore by Anna Marie MacLemore. This is a YA magical realism. It is about two non-binary teens, Bastien and Lore, both of who live near this lake that's rumored to have a hidden world underneath it. And nobody has seen this hidden world except for Bastien and Lore. Then one day, the world beneath the lake starts to creep into the real world, and along with it comes a lot of secrets that Bastien and Lore have kept hidden over the years, so they need to work together in order to get it to stop doing that. The only problem is Bastien and Lore haven't spoken in about 7 years, and they both have their own issues and need to relearn how to trust and how to share their deepest secrets. So ultimately, this is a story about two people healing together from old wounds and old trauma and learning how to trust again. And it was just really beautiful. It's a really beautiful story. The writing is stunning. I mentioned this about Anna Marie MacLemore's other book, When the Moon Was Ours. The prose is just beautiful. It's incredibly vivid, and it's like lyrical, and it paints such a beautiful image. The big problem that I had with When the Moon Was Ours, because that was also a lovely story, but it was I found a lot of the scenes were very drawn out, like unnecessarily long, and it was quite repetitive. But I'm delighted to report that those all seem to be fixed here. Lakelore came out, I think, 2021 or early 2022. So it's their newest novel, if I'm not mistaken. So we love seeing authors grow. Amazing. But yeah, there are still some things I found a tiny bit superfluous, tiny bit repetitive, but nothing crazy. And honestly, if I hadn't read When the Moon Was Ours, I might not have even noticed it being slightly repetitive. But yeah, none of the scenes feel like they overstay their welcome. And yeah, it's just lovely. I think a lot of people will relate to this book, especially if they're trans or non-binary, and especially if they have ADHD or dyslexia, because both of these main characters have one of those. One has dyslexia, one has ADHD. But even if you don't ascribe to any of that, I feel like anyone who has struggled with their mental health will relate to this quote, which is, "The weather in my brain today is good." I just love, that's such a lovely way of putting it. I love that so much. Also, this book brings up the notion of gender forecasts, which I think is genius, and I would love to implement that in real life, please. So I'll read you a quote. So this is a conversation between Lore and Bastien. "The world could use daily gender forecasts." Lore's face lights up. "Yes," they say. "Sunny, 42% expected femininity. Tonight," I say, "cloudy with likely masculinity." I just love that idea so much. I want to implement that, please and thank you. Can this be a law? So yeah, all I have to say, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend. Next, I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn. This is a YA mythology / fantasy. It follows Xingyin, who is the titular daughter of the moon goddess Chang'e, and she grows up in solitude on the moon with her mother, Chang'e, not knowing that she's actually being kept hidden from the celestial emperor, who's sort of the ruler over all of the divinities, because the celestial emperor exiled her mother before Xingyin was born. Xingyin's mother was accused of stealing an elixir of life, or an elixir of immortality, and so she was exiled to the moon. Unfortunately, one day Xinyan's magic becomes strong enough that it becomes noticeable by the Celestial Emperor, and she's forced to flee her home. And she finds herself in the Celestial Kingdom, where she disguises herself and seizes an unexpected opportunity where she's able to learn alongside the Emperor's son, whose name is Prince Liwei, in hopes that one day she will be able to learn something that will help her rescue her mother from her imprisonment and be reunited with her. So I really enjoyed this book. It was really cute. Cute is a very good word for it. And I say that in a good way, because some people mean cute to be condescending, and we don't vibe with that over here in Leia's library. It's a cute library. Look at this. Look at little Shakespeare in the back. I'm in a weird mood. So a lot of reviews on the back of my copy compared this to a C-drama. And I've never watched a C-drama, but I've heard a lot of what C-dramas are like. And it does seem to resemble that. There were quite a few plot contrivances, I thought. There are a lot of, like, romance tropes that are used, like very common, almost cliche tropes, I would say. Not that that's a bad thing, if that's what you're in the like. It's a very cute story, like I said. I'm not mad about it. But so that you understand the level of which I'm talking about, if this had been written for like a Western audience, the characters definitely would have ended up at a hotel that only had one vacant room, and oh no, the room only has one bed. Like, that's the level of plot contrivances we're talking about here. But I'm a sucker for anything mythology related, and I loved this world. The world is super interesting. I loved Xingyan, and just how relentless she was. So one trope that I don't super like is love triangles. And this book, unfortunately, has one. Because frankly, if they're not just gonna end up as a loving polyamorous couple, what's the point? But as far as love triangles go, it wasn't awful. It wasn't bad. I didn't super think it was necessary, but I didn't hate it. So it's fine. One of the love interests definitely had more chemistry with the protagonist than the other one did, but the other one wasn't, stale bread, so bar's pretty low. Also keep in mind that this is a duology, because I forgot, and I was almost nearing the end and not everything was wrapping up, and I was like, but it's fine. Duology. The second one's coming out soon, so I also gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read And They Lived by Stephen Salvatore. This is a new adult LGBTQ+ romance. Our protagonist is Chase, who is a Disney and fairy tale obsessed budding animator who's just started his first year of college. On top of having to navigate school life, he's also still figuring out his gender identity and is recovering from an eating disorder. But primarily, Chase is a hopeless romantic who dreams about finding his true love. And at school, he meets Jack, who is a fellow student, and falls head over heels for him. But Jack may not be ready to be what Chase needs him to be. I have some mixed feelings about this book. I don't think I was the intended audience for it, so there is that. And it's also not a genre that I usually pick up. It's a romance novel, and I'm usually not into those unless they're written by Jane Austen. There were some things that I really liked. I really enjoyed the nuanced discussion around being non-binary. The main character is non-binary, but he primarily uses he/him pronouns over they/them because he just feels more comfortable with them, which isn't something I've ever seen in writing before and is something that should be said more often. For the record, there is no one way to be non-binary. You don't have to look a certain way, you don't have to act a certain way, you don't have to use they/them pronouns, you don't have to have a gender-neutral name. If non-binary is what you are, then non-binary is what you make it. Point final. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, back to the book. So there are certain characters that are struggling with internalized homophobia and with parents who would perhaps not take it super well if their child were gay, and I thought those aspects were really well depicted. And I enjoyed watching the main character and his love interest grow closer together. They're cute. However, there is one trope that I just cannot wrap my head around, worse than love triangles, which is insta-love, which this book, pretty sure this book has a case of that, because the two main characters meet and they are immediately obsessed with each other. And being attracted emotionally and / or physically to somebody you've just met is almost definitely a thing. I'm sure it is. But this was a lot. And maybe it was also just that there's a lot of thirsting in this book. Holy crap. These characters want to get laid. And yeah, I just can 0% relate to that. So there was also that. Another thing I didn't super vibe with is the main character, Chase. He's an animator. He's in an animation program, and he has this animation project that he's working on throughout the whole book, the semester, and I just didn't like it. I really liked it at first, and then it just became a very, very obvious allegory with zero subtlety, and I just wasn't a fan. I'm sorry. Oh, and there are some very explicit scenes and very explicit discussions of sex and sexuality, so be prepared for that. A lot of it is actually shockingly educational, which, again, I don't think I was the intended audience for it, but someone will definitely find it useful. Basically, if you're in the market for an explicit gay romance that also deals with some heavy subjects like homophobia and eating disorders, and body dysmorphia, then check it out. If none of that sounds appealing to you, then just let it go. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Elatsoe by Darcie Littlebadger. This is a YA magical realism fantasy mystery. We follow Elatsoe, or Ellie, who is a Lipan Apache girl who is living in an America that's similar to ours, but there are monsters and magic, and she herself is capable of raising the spirits of dead animals, which is like a family trait. And Elatsoe's cousin is murdered in this very seemingly idyllic town, so she is determined to unravel the mystery surrounding his murder and also protect her family from his vengeful ghost. I loved this book. Oh, it was so good. I enjoyed it so much. The world is so unique. It's like nothing I've ever really seen before. It's inspired by a lot of Apache and indigenous legends. And then there are also there are vampires and fairies. These just kind of exist and are ingrained in the world. But Darcie Littlebadger managed to incorporate this into technology really well. She managed to blend these very fantasy elements with modern day technology in a really interesting way. And the characters are great. Ellie is such a great main character. She's resourceful and confident without being arrogant, and she's super intelligent and very scrappy, and she's ace. We love that. And her best friend is a boy, and not once do they ever have any sort of romantic tension. They're just really good friends, and we love to see it because we do not get that enough, and I cannot stress enough how amazing it is to see just male-female friendships, because they exist and they happen. I can tell you from experience, you can be friends with someone of the opposite gender and have it not turn into a romance thing. It's possible. Can we please tell the people in Hollywood this? It's okay. It doesn't diminish their relationship if they're not romantic. I'm okay. Ellie also has a ghost dog companion. He was her dog when he was alive, and when he passed, she raised his ghost so that they could always be together, and I wish I could do that. Anyway, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. And the last book that I read in July was A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lynn. which is a YA fantasy. We follow Ning, and Ning is struggling with the loss of her mother, who's recently passed. She was poisoned. And what makes things worse is that Ning was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that her mother drank that killed her. And not only did it kill her mother, but it also made her sister incredibly sick. Her sister is now at death's door, essentially. So when Ning hears of a competition to find the greatest Shen Nongxi, which are masters of ancient and magical art of tea making, she heads out under false pretenses in the hopes of winning the competition and being granted a favor from the princess, which she hopes will be enough to save her sister's life. However, the kingdom is on the brink of revolution, and Ning is now at the center of all of the bloody politics. So content warning for some mild animal abuse. In this, around midway through, the animals are okay. They are fine. They just go through a phase where they're not doing so great, just so you're aware. So I really enjoyed this book, and it would have been a 5-star had it not been for one big thing, which I'll get to. So first of all, I knew I had to read this book as soon as I saw that it was about magical tea, because that's cool. I love me some tea. I love magic. And like the magical properties depend on the kind of tea and then what you add to it. And I just think that's so cool. I just want to go back to this world and just learn so much, learn everything about it. So I enjoyed everything character and plot wise, but this is a running theme this month. There is a romance, and the romance is fine. It's not unnecessary. I do think it adds to the drama, but it also happens very, very quickly. I wouldn't say it's insta-love, but it goes up to the line of insta-love and looks at it, gives it a good hard look. The two in question go to a tea house, and they share a cup of tea that's infamous for unlocking the secrets of the people drinking it, and it's unclear if they know that going in, but they've known each other for like maybe an hour at this point, and it just seems like a way to speedrun their relationship. And it had me raising an eyebrow at how they went from friendly acquaintances getting to know each other to like being overcome by emotion and holding each other's faces tenderly in this very public tea house. It's just like, how did we get here? But yeah, that was literally the only problem. There's also some queer rep in here. There's a sapphic couple. Ning is not a part of it, so don't get your hopes up too high, but it's there, and it was nice. I enjoyed it. So yeah, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. And those are all the books I read in July. What did you think of them? Did they sound interesting? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Let me know down in the comments. You can find me on Instagram at Leia Like the Princess, where you can also find my embroidery and art store, Moonlit Cat Creations. Whoa, calm down, my guy. It's only a Wednesday. Or you could go directly to its website, moonlitcatcreations.com. Thank you for listening, and stay cozy.